favorite set PA from Who's the Boss. Please welcome Eric Gilliland!
Who's the boss? Welcome to the third phase of this never-ending shit show. We'll try to speed it along. Huh? I'll do complete sentences later. Welcome to this. These are writers and TV creators, creatives. I hate that phrase. I'm going to start with an easy question. How did you discover Mee-Ow, and why did you want to do it? I'll go first. I didn't want to do it. Arts Alliance pushed me out to direct it. They did a clean sweep of the last year, and I was like, I don't know how to do improv. What are you doing? And I spent the summer in Chicago going to improv shows and learning and seeing and watching and trying to absorb stuff, and then took 10 Roads of Strangers and did the show, and it worked out really, really well. And it was sort of the defining moment of my college career, and made me. The whole point of it was, for me, the focus was intense doing Mee-Ow, and that transferred to doing TV shows where your focus is intense. You can't do anything else but work on the show and think about the show, and that's what Mee-Ow was. And it also made me know that I could do it. I could take nothing and find something pretty good, and I thank Mee-Ow for all of that, because it changed my life. Who wants to go? Jason, go.
So I had auditioned for Mee-Ow my sophomore year, I believe, and didn't get in. Why I wanted to be in it, I have no idea. I don't remember. But then I joined a student group that kind of like formed from people who didn't get into Mee-Ow. That was called...
The Losers?
Yes. Or like that, what was the mud puddle group that I was unaware of? It was like that. Well, but ours was called Your Imaginary Friends, and yeah? Okay. And, hey, Bo.
Meet afterwards.
And then from there, and that's where I really learned, like, you know, and we did shows in Evanston and at art galleries and weird openings, and then senior year I auditioned again and got in, but everybody had been in the show prior. I was like the new guy, so it was weird. I was not as good as everyone else in the show, and I just held my own to the best of my ability. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
No.
I'm Jason Wenner. Thanks. Sorry. Robin can start with that.
And your year?
Oh, 94, 93, 94, I was in the show. 94, I guess.
Yeah.
Not big.
Bigger than you'd think.
Probably.
I just want to say it's completely crazy to be up here. It's completely crazy. I'm Robin Shorr. Thank you. You're turning? Okay. I heard about the Mee-Ow Show in the Daily Northwestern. I don't know if Jill Alexander's in here right now, but I saw a picture of Jill amongst all these guys in the cast, a black and white photo in the Daily, and I was like, she seems cool. Those people seem cool. I'd like to audition. And then I did not get in my freshman year, but I got in my sophomore year. So I was 96, 97, 98. And we have a great contingent here from our years, so we're happy to see everyone. I'll keep her.
I'm Jen D'Angelo. Oh my God, thank you. I assistant stage managed Mee-Ow in 2008 because I didn't get in. And then I was in the cast 2009 and then was a co-director 2010. And I'm one of the people that came to Northwestern basically because of Mee-Ow. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Abby. I came to Northwestern as a theater major. And when I got here, I realized I wasn't good. There were people that were good. I wasn't a good actor, it turns out. So I got out of theater, doing the theater major, but I really I remember seeing Phil Pavel when I was a freshman doing an impression of Ivanka Trump in Mee-Ow, and it was, to me, that was fucking SNL. It was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. So even though it turns out I wasn't a good actor, I always kind of wanted to be in Mee-Ow. So I auditioned and got in my senior year, and I was in it with Adrian and a bunch of other folks who were here. And it was just like the greatest time of my life. I don't know. It was awesome.
How many were not theater majors? Not theater majors. How many were not theater majors? Wow. Wow. Just to get out doing crew. No crew.
This is the writers group, though.
Fuck yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Continue on.
Oh, I'll go. So I'm Adrian. I was 93, 94, 95. Yeah. And I was a CAS major coming in. I was going to be a political science dork. And I was sort of raised on Second City. So when I heard there was an improv show, I saw it my freshman year, and I was like, oh my God, that's exactly kind of what I want to do. And then I auditioned for it my sophomore year and loved it. But so then I ended up kind of transferring to theater from CAS and double majoring. That's all I got.
Okay. Hello.
Name.
Good night. My name's Liz Kruger, class of 29. I was not in the Mee-Ow Show, but I did audition the first year. I didn't get in, so I thought maybe I could be a stage manager. So I stage managed my third year of college. I was the stage manager, and then I became the producer. My senior year with Dan Patterson, who was the director. And so that's why I'm here. And I also was a theater major who couldn't act, and so then I became a writer.
Hi, I'm Liz Cackowski, and I was RTVF, and my years in Mee-Ow were 97, 98, and 99. Freshman year, I saw Mee-Ow perform, I think down here at Norris, like New Student Week, and was like, oh my God, that looks so cool, I want to do that. I auditioned, didn't get in, and then that was the first year of Titanic players, so I saw that there was another improv group, Titanic. So I went and I did Titanic that year, and then the hope was to, come back to Mee-Ow sophomore year, and then I auditioned, got in, and Jill cast me, and Robin was in it, and then co-directed with Jamie Roberts my senior year.
What's the crossover from Titanic to Mee-Ow? How does that work?
What was it?
What's the crossover like? I mean, did a lot of people do both, or?
There we go. So I did it just the freshman year and then stopped doing it. And then Dave Asher is here too. We were in it that first year of Titanic, and then Dave was in Mee-Ow by senior year.
What's the difference between the shows?
We didn't do sketch in Titanic.
Oh, all improv.
It was just all improv. And then at least that year I don't think we ever did any shows on campus at Northwestern. Everything was downtown. So there wasn't one. Yeah, it was really cool. It's like I'm going. I was in Allison Hall, and I remember being like, I got to take the L downtown. I'm doing it.
Justin Spitzer. I don't know. I don't know if I knew of Mee-Ow before I applied here, but same as Liz. I was at that show, New Student Week, freshman year, and was just blown away. Like my friends and I and Allison went back and did short form improv based on the show in our dorms. Cannot believe we did that. And I don't know. Yeah, I remember just looking up at Mee-Ow. People look at SNL. There was nothing better than that. And I think I auditioned not believing there was any chance I'd get in. I was just like, it'll be fun to audition. Never really thought that was realistic. And kind of actually cheated my way through the audition, pre-planned a bunch of stuff. And luckily got in.
Get out. Get out.
So.
Good night. Good night.
Spitzer, everybody.
But no, it's like I think was alluded to earlier. It's like so I know I showed up having no idea what to do and not being capable, but through the year sort of learned it and felt okay by the end. So.
The next obvious question is how does improv affect your writing? Do you yes and as you write, or you just when you're sitting there with a QWERTY? What is improv part of that process for any of you?
I think being on staff, yes, you do have to yes and. Although that's where the difference is between being on a staff of someone else's show and then being at the point where you're either running a show or you're at the point where you have some leadership where your job is to know, but really like you're the editor there, you have to tell people what works and what not. But in those early years on a staff, yeah, it's all about building on other people's pitches and it really is yes and.
I also think it's like, so much of being a professional writer is pitching and selling, which is horrible. And it's not what we like to do. It's not fun to like come in and be like, I'm amazing actually, and you want to buy my idea, when everything in your body is trying to just be like, I don't know, do you like it? And I think improv is super helpful for that because it's basically a performance. Like every time you have to pitch to a studio or an actor or whoever, like, just viewing it as like, I've got to really get them on board and I've got to have a lot of energy and be very positive. So I think that's where like improv really comes into, is just being able to like roll with really stressful conversations.
I completely agree. Yeah, improv is part of the pitching process. You got to be really delightful.
Yeah, and you got to have great answers to questions.
I actually I taught at NYU for a while, and I tell anyone, not even in show business, go take an improv class. Just for presentation, for being a person, being lovely to be in a room with. I think improv classes just sell yourself really well. Jason.
Improv has been like a huge part of my career. I'm a director mainly.
Yeah, talk about the Modern Family creation. You said there was improv involved in that.
Well, my early stuff that I made in Los Angeles that sort of led before Modern Family was improv-based pilots. I was trying to do. I wanted to make my own stuff, but my talent as a writer is limited. I'm pretty good with story, but like I didn't feel like I could write a script. So
I wrote one with you.
I know. But was it good? And you did all the typing.
Yeah, but
well, she's the girl.
No, I'm just saying.
As a joke. Oh my God.
That was bad, but hey.
it feels just like 1998, doesn't it?
I'll skip ahead. I wrote this thing. It was like an outline. It's basically also how Larry David does Curb Your Enthusiasm. It was like an outline of a pilot without the dialogue, and I cast improv actors to be in it and basically write it for me. And I directed the improv around the story I had written. This was for the ABC network.
It was paid. You paid to do this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
No,
it was
it was a joke. It was a joke.
It was a pilot, a television pilot. It was called This Might Hurt. I skipped ahead.
Okay.
And I learned from that not to title anything how you might later feel about it. But it was a thing that it came together really in a lovely way. And it led to those guys wanting to hire me to direct the pilot that was at the time called My American Family. It was a very uncool family show. Family shows were not in at the time. The only family show on television was
Who's the Boss? I'm sure it was. Yeah.
It was that Jim Belushi one, according to Jim. So it wasn't cool to do a family show, and my improv show was supposed to go like that cool thing I did, And this was in 2008 when the economic meltdown happened, and suddenly they changed their mind and didn't pick up my show. They had picked it up for 13 episodes, and then they called and said, we're not going to do it. And I was it was like the heartbreak of my career. And I went back, and I had interviewed with those guys, Steve and Chris, with their super uncool family show called My American Family. And I was like, do you still want me to direct that? Because they had seen this improv thing I had written, according to them. They were impressed that I had written it, but I hadn't really written it, in my opinion. And I said, yes, I'll do this thing. And so then I was directing what became Modern Family. And I was so bummed about it at the time.
You were.
Yeah.
You were
Why were you bummed about it?
Well, because it wasn't my super cool alternative improv show.
Maybe you should have cast me in your super cool improv show.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and anyway. Yeah, I should have.
Well,
Too late.
I don't want to cut Jason off, but I also want to say I thought he was going to talk about another project of his that was improvised called Giants of Radio. But RIP Giants of Radio. But I want to say that just in terms of writing and being in a writer's room, and even when you're in a position of managing staff and whatever, it becomes so weird when you have the yes and attitude and other people don't. And you're like, whoa, oh, I didn't even know you could say no. And so so our training here would just like brainwashed me into thinking that everybody does that. And it's shocking. It still shocks me when like people just like will shoot down a pitch in a writer's room or just be like, we can't do that, or we did that on The Simpsons or whatever. It's like, just build on it and you'll find something cool. But it was formative.
There's one more other practical thing and Justin sort of alluded to it, but when you're doing anything really, but especially like a multicam sitcom and even the sort of single cam, shit inevitably doesn't work. And you're constantly sort of you're kind of on the spot to fix stuff, which is the beauty of TV really. And it very much helps to have that brain of this, not just we're coming there with the script and that's how it's going to be. You can call audibles, you can punch stuff up on the fly. As a group is very helpful.
Nothing more fun than having a joke bomb. I'm not kidding you. And then everyone gathers around, on the audience out there, and like, this joke. And we go, okay, we try it out and it works. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
And then the actor ruins it.
Always, every time.
But sometimes in a multicam, they're laughing, the audience is laughing at the joke. We call that a joke-like substance because it sounds different.
It's new.
It's new. And they're like, oh my God, they came up with something so fast. So it is great when it's actually funny, you know?
So true.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So I actually, maybe I'm not supposed to be. I don't work in TV.
Please,
I don't work in TV. I don't. So can I comment?
Tell them where you work.
Can I comment on I'm not a TV writer, so I didn't even fit into your introduction of it all.
I'm sorry.
No. So what I'm going to
you?
say doesn't have. What I'm going to say doesn't really apply to the room or anything. It applies to pitching, which I really think 99% of being a writer is being delightful. And 1% of it is, the stuff that he makes other people do. So I think as a movie writer, one of the sort of unconscious parts of doing improv and Mee-Ow that has helped is really just like getting to the heart of the shit so quickly. Like everybody knows in screenwriting, it's all about economy, all about getting in and out of these scenes. I, like Jason, also started directing, and even more so when you're thinking towards how you're gonna make this, what shit you don't wanna have to put in the budget that you know is gonna get cut. So you really want the economy of it. And I really think we just like get to the heart of it, get to the heart of what's funny, and get out and lose all the other crap. That I think started for me in being on stage and having to do it because people have eyes on you, and there's never, there's nothing that adds more pressure to wanting it to be quick than when people are watching you do it,
Yeah, great answer.
Thank you. Even as a screenwriter, I said something you liked.
Get out.
So I didn't start as a comedy writer. I do like 1 hour, and I've done dramedy and et cetera, et cetera. I've never done multicam or anything like that. But I will say, after I left Northwestern, still determined to try my hand at comedy and improv. I did join a group in New York, and I did comedy and improv, and I was still terrible. So I then went on to write. But the interesting thing about that experience in teaching me that I couldn't act was that, I realized that comedy is part of drama. It's part of everything. And that's the most interesting thing that I find, even like as a showrunner, if I'm reading scripts for people who want to be on staff, it's the people who know that comedy, there's a place for comedy in everything, that their scripts sing. Because it's like, you read these earnest things, and I'm like, death is funny. Like, why isn't this funny? I'm like, everything is funny in its own way. And that is sort of, I think, the stuff that if you have that little funny fizz or that funny bone and you bring it to whatever you do, your work kind of rises, So there is something about. How was that? Was that all right?
Sorry, what?
Was that okay, Eric?
It was okay.
Okay.
It was okay.
All right, I'll try again later.
I just want to add in really, really quickly that as somebody said up here, improviser's brain, and I am essentially married to a performance studies major, and they're very different brains. Let me just put it, You were performance studies. We're not married. His wife was in the
I never knew what that meant. What is performance studies?
I don't know.
Okay.
All the best professors and no crew.
Down the line? Improv.
Yeah, well, I guess right now I'm working on something that's maybe the closest thing to Mee-Ow since Mee-Ow, because I'm in the podcast world now and making these parodies of podcasts where they are improvised. So I'm writing, I'm coming up with the character and the game and sort of a little bit of the story, and it's an outline, and then we get all our funny friends, and a bunch of Mee-Ow alum have come and done it too. So Anna Gasteyer's in it, and Jean Villepique was in it, and Peter Gross, and we improvise for about an hour, and then we get to edit it down to 20 minutes, and it's so freaking fun. And
What's it called?
We have it's with Amy Poehler, and it's called Paper Kite Podcast.
Right, yeah.
And so Amy Poehler plays Dr. Sheila, who's a therapist, and so that one was about the parody of self-help podcasts and couples therapy. And then Ike Barinholtz did one where he's kind of like a dude podcaster who was canceled, and then he said he came back and he listened and learned, and now he's changed. And then the one coming out in May is a true crime one called Women Talking About Murder. And I'm in that one. Thank you, Robin. But yeah, it's bringing back all the joy that I remember from Mee-Ow too, of we're laughing so hard and it's so freaking joyful, and so writing for that is just knowing that funny people are going to improvise all the lines is great.
That's the best.
Yeah. Don't have to write those lines.
You're good?
I think I went.
No, I don't pay attention.
Eric, if we all talk about everything, this is never going to work. We're going to have to be able to move through it.
We got an hour to fill. You're all taking a lot of time with your answers, and I appreciate it. But you had mentioned you're working with other Mee-Ow people. Who here has worked with Mee-Ow people? Either hired them or, yeah, pretty cool. Because it's okay.
No, I've worked with a lot of Northwestern alums. So maybe they didn't make it into Mee-Ow, but I put a lot of people in shows. Rob Benedict, Paul. I don't know if you know Paul Fitzgerald, great actor. I put him in stuff. A lot of Northwestern people.
Kind of counts, not for this panel, but counts.
Great. Okay. Well, I'm helping to fill.
Okay. When you guys are on set, various sets or podcasts, how do you feel? Well, you're all improv, but when you have a scripted series, how do you feel about actors improvising on set and on camera? Because I'm cool with it.
If they can do it, it's great. But
Yeah.
it's not easy. It's hard. And if there's a difference between improvising on set and changing the words so that they're less funny. I don't mean to be the guy who's actors suck. It's not that. It's just it's just frustrating when it happens.
I feel like I've often been the go-between between writers who really want to see it sing exactly as written and actors who want to play and bring it to life. And as a director with an improv background, like, I love it. I want to use it, but I often use it to get to the best version of the written line. So I find that actors, they, when given permission to play, come to life, and the scene starts to sing but it's also too long and it's unwieldy. And then as like an afterthought, I'll go, after we did that fun improv version, let's now do one more of the written one. And that's the one that's in the cut.
I go the other way. I start with what's on the page, get on there, and then guys just go play.
No, that too.
Thanks.
I do that, yes, and I do one more.
That was clever. That was clever.
You got to get it as written first. But you have to get it as written first, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I'll say I worked on a show for a long time with one of the best improvisers, I knew him from Chicago, and it wasn't Adrian, but it was someone Adrian's improvised with. So we cast another improviser, famously famous improviser from Second City.
Names.
I'm not going to, but I was like, oh my God, my bosses didn't know.
It's Jim Belushi again.
This was a show where everything had to be word perfect, like not even a dash out of, like you had to say everything perfectly. And I begged my showrunners at the time. I was like, let these two guys improvise. They're geniuses. You've never seen anything like it. And they tanked it so hard because they were so confined for so long. They were so kind of scared of like going off book that they'd never been given that freedom, that when I asked for it, it didn't work. So you have to you have to be site specific about what you're doing. I learned that in performance studies class, site specific.
Perf studies.
Yes.
I'll say for me, I love improv on my shows.
Your show's like almost all improv.
There's always a script that I always view as. Well, I came up working on The Office, which is where I did not create that show, but we did a lot of improv on that, and that I think influenced me. And then I created Superstore, American Auto, starring Anna Gasteyer. I don't know if she's here yet. And I have a new show, St. Dennis Medical, that'll come out in the fall.
What's it called?
It's called St. Dennis Medical. It's a hospital mockumentary. And a few other shows that no one's ever heard of that I'll do. But no, I love it. I always say the script is the safety net. We get it there. It'll at least be no worse than the script. And then there's levels of improv. I mean, I almost never want the actors to say it word for word. I want it to feel natural. And so there's a level of improv that anyone can do, even if you're not a comedy person, which is like, yeah, say it, but, throw in words, make it feel like your own. And then, but I love also casting comedy people. I always ask my casting directors to find people with improv backgrounds. And then if they can make it better, and so many times they do. I mean, I've cast people who are ridiculously good writers on their own, and other people who just are funny on the fly and find something that feels right to them that the writers could never have done. And so I use that all the time. I also think there's a difference probably between using improv on a single cam versus a multicam. I mean, multicam, so much of it is like the rhythm of the language, and there I can understand wanting to get it word for word or try it, because sometimes it is about hitting that punchline and just, that's going to elicit a laugh. But I like single cams that feel a little more naturalistic, so I think improv works great for that.
Like Justin, it's been about identifying the people that can do it really well. You're working with Ty Burrell right now, who's a guy that, in the early going of Modern Family, we're like, oh, he can improvise and give us something that's going to be useful in the story and within the structure and rhythm of a scene. So it's like, what I would do in those early episodes is sit off camera when we would do the interviews with the cast. And even though those interviews were scripted, I would write down 10 additional questions, and I would ask the questions.
Such as?
Of the actors. Well, I would ask, if there was an interview about, Julie Bowen is doing an interview about her early bad behavior when she was a teenager, I would say, I I would ask her questions to elicit that. Like, what's a story you might not want to tell your daughter? And then that would be, she would have the written answer, but I would ask her a question that would lead into that, and I would ask her a question that would follow out of it, and I would get them talking, so that helped them establish the tone, the realistic and grounded tone of the interviews, and it would lead to stuff that we would actually use in the cuts in the early going. But at the same time, the writers were absolutely rolling their eyes at me and thinking I was wasting time by doing more than what was written there. Yeah, I get that. And even though we used stuff that came out of that, they would never give me credit for that.
They're scared. You did okay. The point about doing a multicam is, on Roseanne, there was never an ad lib ever. They played the ellipses out. They played a dash, an Everything was perfectly scripted. She would put in a double negative every now and then because she's folksy. But then on My Boys, Betsy Thomas. The most Mee-Ow adjacent person ever invented. We had a cast that would let people just improvise and play around. Again, get all in the can first, and then just fuck around, you guys. And we had a great cast who could do that, except for Jim Gaffigan.
Oh my God.
You got it, man. You got it.
Right? Yeah, is he here? I blocked him at the door.
I'll just, Eric, I'll just
what?
say this. What I do for a living is so different in a way, because 1 hour, it's like you've got to say it word perfect, because we did have one actress who was a well-known comedian who was beloved until she got on the set and would not say one line as written, and the other three people in the scene were like, had no idea what to do, because they were all saying the lines and she was off rolling around on the floor, God knows what the hell she was doing. So it's funny because we're all in the same business roughly, but the things that are required to make something sing are very different, like when you're doing comedy versus drama. I mean, you have to really, when there was I don't know if you guys ever went to the WGA's showrunner training program, if any of you were in that, but thank you. John Wells.
I would like to say I didn't get into the showrunner training program. I applied. I didn't get in, so I went into their one-day training for losers who didn't get in.
Yeah.
And then I went to the John Wells training, which was insane.
John Wells will say, it's word perfect. And if the actors have a question about the lines, they can go home. I know, that was a little extreme, but I just think it's very interesting because it's like a very different process that is required to get through your day. But mine's maybe less fun.
No.
Thank you.
In spite of that. When I graduated, we all had like 9-to-5 jobs that were kind of mind-numbing. And I lived with Dermot Mulroney, and we sort of said, we're becoming dull. Huh? I didn't cast you for a reason. A couple of reasons. I'm kidding, I love you. We did improv in our living room every Tuesday night for like 3 hours. And Romy came, and John Cameron Mitchell came, and we all just to stay sharp, to stay, on top of things, because we were becoming 9-to-5ers. What did you guys do after college to stay sharp? And current Mee-Owers or recent grads, listen to this stuff, because this is all kind of smart things for you guys to hear, I think. How do you not become dumb? Go. Anyone? You did talk about Bitter Nowhere, you guys.
Right after college, I actually went to film school at USC, and I really think, I feel like there was a tentative woo, and I really feel, and actually when I first got to USC, I did join, even though I was a grad student, I joined an undergrad improv group, and they weren't good. But I really felt like a lot of my Mee-Ow improv stuff really came to, most of the people when I went to film school were making, it was the era of like they were inspired by George Lucas and Spielberg, and they wanted to make those type of movies, and I was making little funny shorts. And I really think that's how I took my Mee-Ow training and turned it into movie training, and just really got good at getting to the heart of the scene, at practicing all that stuff. And then after film school, when I did take a shitty job answering phones, I then had my short films that I could go out and sell and get an agent and whatever. But I think figuring out how to turn the funny into movie funny and into editing funny was like a really big step for me.
So when I graduated, luckily a few other Mee-Ow people had graduated, and so we actually just kind of moved the show downtown. And the sad thing is there's just not as much sort of, I think it's coming back, but the pandemic really blew a hole in a generation of people that were getting to see it every night, because we were just like, well, I'll work this shitty job up in Evanston to pay off my student loans, but at night we were doing shows like 6 times a week or whatever with Jason and Ed and Abby, So it was really, we were just trying to stay in practice and just do it in the real world. And I think that was like invaluable for, one, keeping us from going insane, and 2, just sort of like, building on what we'd sort of built, what we'd sort of learned together and stay together, and sort of, because it's a rough business if you're doing it, if you just jump out into it solo, to have that sort of pad, that like landing pad of like friends who you were comfortable working with and who knew you. It was fantastic. So we'd go downtown to Improv Olympic or Second City, the Annoyance. There were a million theaters you could perform. So just keep doing it is what I would say.
Yeah, I moved to LA right after college, and because I wanted to be a writer, and so I was just like, I'm just gonna go out there, see what I could do. I got very lucky because I got a writer's PA job pretty quickly on a very easy show because the production was in Georgia, so all I had to do was get lunch for the writers. It was great. And I was doing UCB at night, so I like immediately found like the LA improv scene, and that was so incredible because, and I also joined it with like people from Mee-Ow who had also moved out to LA at the same time. So it was so fun. And we had like a little improv group that we put together. We would do like random shows in the attic of IO West, a horrible, horrible place that no longer exists. IO West, I don't know, but that specific place.
It's a condemned building now.
Yeah.
They found people living in it.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think like finding like the thing that's so great about Northwestern that I feel like I've felt so acutely since I've been back here is that like the spirit of a Northwestern student really is so unique, and it's very interesting to see that it's sort of always been the same for like 50 years. Like watching that show, it's just like a very specific, like creative, really ambitious, like has a chip on their shoulder because they didn't get into Brown type. That's us. And so I think like staying together, don't make new friends. No, like finding like your group and sort of like being able to sort of do this together is really important, especially now. Like I don't mean to be very depressing for anyone who's considering a career in entertainment, but it's a terrible time. Go on. It's absolutely horrible. The industry's in shambles. But the good news is there's really nowhere to go but up. Truly, I genuinely do think that it's like, yes, it's very, very bad, but it will get better. And also because, you know, the corporations that control the entertainment industry have ruined it and they're terrible and their leadership is bad. Don't film this. I want to keep working. I love Bob Iger. He's the best. He didn't mean it. But I like it really watching Joe's incredible presentation. Like it really feels like Hollywood now is WAMU, and they're just like old. They're not truly, fuck WAMU. No, like they're the establishment. They're not changing. They're not, they're really stuck in their ways, and they're really intent to just run the industry into the ground. So I think it's like really, honestly, an exciting time for a group of people who are industrious and self-starters and creative who want to just sort of like make something together. And I think the other thing that's really nice about the entertainment industry being in shambles and jobs being impossible to get.
Go on.
It's really so bad. But the good thing is, when I graduated, it was very much like you go out there, you try to get a writer's assistant job or a PA job, and you just like work as hard as you can, write all the time, perform at night, like do whatever you can. And I think now that those jobs are really, really, really hard to get, and then also way shorter, so you don't have, when you do get them, it's not like they're really impossible to get. It's a really, really, really tough business. And I think honestly, like being able to remove that, like the fire of like get to LA and get a terrible assistant job immediately, and like that's not necessarily like the ladder anymore. I always say that my career has felt like running across a rope bridge as planks fell off, and now I'm sort of like on the other side and there's no rope bridge. But I think what's really great about that is we can all make our own bridge, and Northwestern people are really good at that.
Oh yeah, I will yes and your bridge, because my experience after college was all from Pep, who was a Mee-Ow alum, starting Boom Chicago. And then Josh Myers was a year ahead of me in Mee-Ow, and he went to do Boom. And in emailing the year where I was a senior, he was like, "You would love it here. You should audition." I auditioned in February of senior year, got in, and left like days after graduation, and got to go to Amsterdam. And all that was from the Mee-Ow family.
Once again, I was going to say once
Go.
again.
Go.
Oh, go.
Go.
Oh, once again, I did not do anything the linear way. I was a stand-up comic when I got out of Northwestern, and then I went to law school because I told you can find things funny anywhere. And then when I was sitting in my contracts class looking out the window, I was like, why the fuck did I apply to law school? And so then I ended up writing scripts and coming out to LA and doing PA jobs and all that. But the thing that I don't know how many are undergraduates here looking for hope, but no, I just want to say this. If you are looking for hope, raise your hand. I'll just talk to you. Well, okay, so, okay, great. Here's the thing. This is super important. There is no right way. There is no right way. Like, we're all sitting up here doing writing and producing, directing, but like, you just do you, and don't like feel like you have to follow any straight path, because all the things that I did before I became a full-time writer, like they informed me. They made my brain more interesting, and it made my writing more interesting. So don't feel like there's one way. There's many ways. Just your 20s are about figuring it out, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
And one of the, we were like lousy with panels. Sorry. When I went to film school in here, just really a lot of panels. So now I don't know how tired you are of fucking panels, but we had a lot of them. But one of the things that I remember being told and thinking it was not helpful at the time, so I'm going to pass it on to you, was that if you really have something to say, it's going to take a second, but it will get there. And I thought at the time, I was like, but I don't even have an agent, and what's the creative directory, and I don't understand, and if I have something to say, nobody's hearing it. That's all true also, but I still believe that if you really have something to say and you're good at it and you hone it and you're funny and you're 99% delightful in the room, it will happen. And there's like a little bit of faith you have to have in the waiting part of it. But I still really do think that's true. Everybody up here who's obviously super talented, it didn't happen right away, and you have to believe that you have something to say that no one else is saying. You can do it in a way that no one else is doing. But you have to, like you said, take a little bit of a woozy path.
It happened pretty fast for me. Anyway.
It did for me too.
It's so true.
Anyone else? Jason, you were going to say something.
Well, it's just this notion to sort of piggyback on many things that have been said here, this idea of making something out of nothing that the Mee-Ow Show is kind of all about. First of all, an improv scene is all about that, making something out of nothing. The show itself, then, is this making of something out of nothing as a team. And there's kind of no endeavor more like the making of a television show or a movie that you can do in college, in my opinion, than essentially this show. Even making a short film in college is less like the endeavor of making a real one than making a show like this, that is making something out of nothing, really attempting to capture a voice, so to speak, as a group, if that's such a thing. And that group has tremendous power moving forward. Your friends that you make here, you know, with Adrian, like we went and performed downtown after we graduated, and other people that were in our cast. Ed Hersman's over there. He quieted everyone when Eric made that sexist joke earlier. The three of us lived together in a horrible apartment across from a halfway house near the Sheridan L stop together after we graduated. Ed had very smelly bunnies in his room.
I believe it was one bunny, and it had.
I remember it being many.
An actual bunny?
And it had fleas. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a weird, horrible time in some ways, but together.
In some ways.
We were performing every night together, the group of us, at Improv Olympic in Chicago, and studying with Del Close in what I look back on as grad school, essentially for me, because I didn't get into USC Film School. And then together we moved to Los Angeles, and together we continued performing, and like that's the power, that's the of this time, that was the launch of all of our creative careers, endeavors. And to bring it back to the question originally, the bad jobs we had, we worked together at the Chateau Marmont doing room service in Hollywood during that time, and all of this was to try and pimp Adrian into telling us some Chateau Marmont stories.
I want to start holding the microphone like Jason, like a
"Where's
rapper.
that?"
What up?
Hi.
I want to say that I had a slew of horrible jobs, the worst of which was working for my father in his office in the deep San Fernando Valley. That was tough. Those were tough times, and it required a lot of improv in my brain just to stay fresh. But my favorite job was with Justin Spitzer's wife, Jenna Bands. We were waitresses at 2 separate restaurants in New York City, and we were improvising knowing how to be waitresses. We were so bad at it. Like, we would forget orders, and then, you know, one day we came out dressed it was a Mexican restaurant. We were Captain Enchilada and Burrito Boy, and no one understood what we were doing. We just tried to bring the fun to those shitty jobs.
When I came back from Boom Chicago, and I went to Chicago because I wanted to do Second City, and I auditioned, I didn't get in, and then that year was a year of so many temp jobs and so many office jobs and really shitty jobs where at night I was taking classes and performing almost every night. But I will say during the day, like, Mee-Ow trains you to have this comedy brain, right? And you see the world through it, like where you just something crazy happens, or, you know, just stupid happens at work and you can't turn to anybody there, and you find your people at night and tell them about it. And almost every job I had that year I've used in a sitcom later. So when you're having these, you know, you have to work, and if you're like, this isn't what I want to do, you will use it later. Like, I think the one that I was the camera person in the back for a company that taught corporations how to be better presenters. So it would be like these people who had to give PowerPoint that didn't know how, and they went to Communispond was the name of the company. Terrible. Definitely a communist front of some kind. And like, And so it was people was really scared to give talks and didn't know how. And so it was like breaking down how to speak to a crowd. And the only thing they taught people was how to use your hand. If you didn't know how to use your hands, they said, just hand them a sandwich. Hand them a sandwich. Hand them a sandwich. And I believe if it made it in that Chevy Chase has that in Community. I wrote for Community and used it for him once and was that everyone's like, so like all these crappy jobs you will use later.
There is also something for the hopers, the people looking for hope. I just want to say one other thing. Oh, they're over there. Sorry. Okay, so. Oh, great. Oh, yes, exactly. Lisa, this is for you. No, but you know, if you can hear up here, everybody here has had no said to them many times. Like, no is a part of life, and it gets you to yes, and it's just something you have to like be okay with. It's gonna hurt. It always hurts, but it's also like just the part of moving forward in life. And I just like to give people hope because it's so hard. It's so hard when you're getting out of school and you feel like, who am I? I'm a loser. I'm never gonna amount to anything. That's true for many of you, but not all of you. I'm sorry. That was a joke.
Time to go to the burn unit.
No.
Sick burn alert.
No.
For me doing Mee-Ow and the besides just the massive concentration it took, the whole point for me in everything I've done since, is having fun. My dad always asked me at every job, said, "Are you having fun?" And I would sit there for a second and go, "Yeah, I think I am." And so I think that the fun element has to be a part of all of it. It's hard work, focus, but then, make a fart noise, Just don't do that, it's awful. But just make sure everyone's having a good time. Then good things come out of the relaxation of having fun, and you can relax and just sort of be stupid. And that's when good stuff comes out of your brain. Make sense? Yeah. Thanks, Dad. Q&A.
Okay, hi, my name is Anelga. I'm a recent grad of Mee-Ow. Yes, recent director with this lovely lave right here. Okay, that's fine. So I was wondering, and I hope this doesn't like sour the hope conversation, but I was wondering, like, what do you think as people who have like been in the industry so long, like what are like the biggest changes you see happening to how like TV is gonna be written and like, I don't know, just like the future of comedy, like what have you seen change already in your, careers? But like hope too,
This is gonna sound so depressing, and then it's gonna get hopeful. It's really bad. Like,
it's not. I'm doing very well, personally.
Yeah, we're all doing great. But it's like truly. Like breaking in has always been really hard. It has gotten even harder. Staying in has always been really hard. It has gotten even harder. Finding any sense of stability has always been really hard, and it's gotten even harder. So everything is getting harder. The world sucks. It's a really bad time for everything. Sorry, I swear it will get hopeful.
You're fun.
Sorry. I graduated in 2010. It sucked. We were still recovering from the financial crisis, and then I started working in TV. And already in TV, people were like, TV's changing, it's getting worse. And then that has only just accelerated that pattern. But again, I think that the pendulum is always swinging. There's always an ebb and flow of entertainment. These institutions, like the big studios, they might need to just fold and die, and then whatever replaces them might be smaller, but that's fine. We don't need it to be the Marvel universe. We can go back to making movies we don't. I think the future, in kind of a very depressing but also exciting way, is very unclear. What is TV? I don't know. What are movies? I don't know.
Jen, are you having fun?
I am having fun. That's the thing. This is how it's hopeful. It's really great. And I think the advice that I got when I was on panels, or when I came to panels when I was a student, I just remember thinking tell me how I do it, please. And everyone would be like, we can't. There's no way, there's no one way to get an agent. To ask anyone how they got their agent, they'll tell you a long winding story that takes 4 years. And there's just everything is sort of up in the air. And now it's just Oh my gosh, I've been speaking too much negativity. I've lost my voice. But yeah, everything has always been really up in the air. Now it's just even more so up in the air. So again, like, who knows what the future is? You'll tell us. Like, yeah, it's wide open.
When I started out in the 80s, sitcoms were dead. Dead. There was no sitcoms at all, and I chose to become a sitcom writer. The form was dead, and then the Cosby Show came, and everyone went, sitcoms are back, and they were back, and I benefited from that. So when things are dead, they seem to revive again, it seems.
Also, all these people are hiring, so please feel free to go and talk to them.
But
Look,
you know,
I mean,
Eric,
me first. Hire me first.
as a class of 29, I can speak because I have having seen a lot, been through 2 wars and such. But when television first came out, they said movies were dead, right? And so it's like, nobody knows anything. William Goldman also said that. I hope you guys know who William Goldman is. But anyway, the point is this: nobody knows anything. So and the thing is, it's probably good that way, for me to communicate that, because this is a business of uncertainty, and you have to be comfortable with not knowing what your next job is, like what's going to happen tomorrow. Like I went to law school. I was like, I'm going to know everything, and I was like, fuck, that's awful. So now it's like this open thing, and AI. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but it's sort of like, this is a business of uncertainty, and if you can embrace that and say, I don't know what's going to happen, I'm just going to keep going. Hope. Keep hope alive.
Love it.
Yeah. I'd like to know a little more about Communispond.
What's the worst advice you ever got that you ended up learning something from?
I can think of something. In 2004, there were only a few multicams on the air, 2.5 Men and Joey, the spinoff of Friends, and my agent told me to write a Joey spec, and I wrote the shit out of a Joey spec, and then that got me my first job on a show called The Loop. So it was bad advice, but it wound up having a good ending, and I want to see. I think we should reboot Joey, shouldn't we? All of us here on this stage, let's take it. Let's take it to NBC.
I'll give one bit of advice. It's not exactly that, but it's a trope that I very much disagree with. That people always say, write the show only you can write. Like, write your passion, and it's like, you're writing to entertain. Like, that's the story you should share with your therapist. Like, that thing that only you like, nobody wants to see your pain. And like, if you have an interesting life experience, you can write that. But in the end, it's always about the audience. So every now and then you read something and it's so important to them. And if you were to note it, it's like, no, but that's not the way it happened, or that's not the way I feel. And like, that's a ticket to nowhere. So.
All right.
Does the panel think that hope is an overrated emotion? And if so, what is your go-to emotion? What emotion most sums any of you up?
Scotch.
I tend to quit the business in the spring, which is how I deal with it most of the time. In the spring is when I say I'm done here. And so I feel like I need to humor myself in that way. I need to believe that now I'm really done here. Every year, maybe it's in May, sometimes in April, where I just feel like that's what gets me through, as opposed to having hope when I feel like I'm really done. Then I'll come back, but I feel like sometimes mentally I have to, given what you've been saying about the state of the business, sometimes you have to believe like it's okay to close the door on it for a second. I don't want those notes. I'm not okay with any of that shit. And then you come back. So I feel like for me, when I don't have hope, I also have to sort of trick myself into believing in the spring that it's okay if I also decide I'm going to open up a vintage gear eBay store with my husband, and that's also okay.
I'm going to answer that question earnestly.
Mine was earnest.
No, I agree. I did. Well, I'm not to suggest that yours was not earnest.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm just saying, is hope an overrated question?
First part,
I would actually suggest that the question itself is cynical, but that's my. Yeah. Well, but that's what I'm saying. For me, that hope is sort of inextricably connected to the process of making something. In my opinion, the way it feels to me, hope is literally the essential emotion. I have to hope this becomes real. I have to hope that people will see this and respond positively. I can't move forward and make the thing unless I have those hopes. That is literally the driving emotion. And just to bring it back to Mee-Ow, Mee-Ow was the thing that kind of like taught me the process of making something from nothing into hoping, and also to bring back hope seems to be like, I think, the theme of this panel, because what Jen is saying was something we're all dealing with. It's crazy. The entertainment business is crumbling in this macroeconomic way.
Hope!
No, listen. We're all experiencing it, but what's great for you guys is we're in the midst of this transition of the thing, and we can't see what the next iteration of the business or of this endeavor is going to become. But one thing that is certain is that part of the disruption and part of that change is the fact that the means of distribution is no longer centralized. Anybody can put anything out into the world. And that means that people like you, who are practiced in the art and the skill of making something from nothing, can make something from nothing and then put it out into the world yourselves without being controlled by anybody else. And that is the simple best skill that you can learn here, and that's why there's hope, I think.
I actually realized something. There's two essential emotions, because what you said was just right on. It's like there's two essential emotions to living a life of the creative person: hopelessness and hope. And you alternate between those two things, and it's just part of your day, right? I mean,
totally.
Okay, we have. Sorry.
Let me just add one quick thing for those who are planning to come out to the industry fairly soon. I mean, we shouldn't sound overly morose, I think, about how things. I mean, just a couple years ago, it was the golden age of television, and then there was a glut, and there was a little bit of a reset, and we had a big strike. We got a lot of things, but the studios used that to cut a lot of deals. So right now we're on a little dip, but it's not like things have been like for 10 years, like things have been sinking. Like, I don't think there's any reason to think that 5 years from now things will still be, or 2 years from now things will still be, miserable. So.
And one thing I just want to say, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, that during the 2008 strike, I think Steve Levitan and Chris Lloyd wrote the pilot of Modern Family because sitcoms were dead. And at that point, if you were a sitcom writer, there were no jobs. And then they wrote their way out of it. And I do think there's a way you can use, if you're a writer, you can sort of use your pen mightily and try and write yourself out of a slump. And it doesn't have to be anything that is sellable to Hollywood. If it's something funny to you, there might be something there that could become a thing, and just be the flower growing out of the cement, because it is terrible, but try and push through it.
Hi, I'm Willa. I was 2018 to 2020, I guess. A little bit of pandemic time. Nah, it's all right. It's fine. But I guess my question is, I mean, basically my whole friend group was Mee-Ow or Titanic. I mean, like all my friends were the people I'm doing comedy with, are the people I'm doing comedy with. I live with them and do shows with them. Like, do you guys have any advice for, working so closely with friends can also, on creative projects, can create tensions, and there can be, I'm sure, like Mee-Ow has a storied history of like drama within it as well, It's like, how do you navigate that also in the professional world and staying friends and all, I don't know, that?
That's actually a great question, because the group that I alluded to earlier, I mean, we went into a grinder in LA. I mean, we were like 6 people that were going to like stay together and do our own thing, and we'd had ups and downs, but then you get put into, it's like just piranhas in mud or whatever, and you're being picked apart. And the thing is, like, there's just going to be attrition. And because like what the point someone was making is like, it's just, you got to hold on, and some people just don't want to, and it's totally that's their decision. But I think that when you're in a group, it's easy to be like, we're only going to do things our way, which is sort of an opposite of something I said earlier, which is you've got to actually grow too. You've got to be able to, like, I think my advice to that situation would be everybody's got to do their own way, and it's very easy to get into this group mind of like we gotta stick together and do it, and it's going to be extremely hard. You're setting yourself like a really high bar, and just be patient, be kind with each other, be accepting of their successes. If it doesn't happen for you, it will, and just try. I know it's very hard when you're that age.